Hey everyone, how are you? Welcome, welcome. Give everyone a few minutes till they join. Make sure you've muted yourself. This is being recorded to watch later. And let's go. Hi, Julie Wood here. I want to welcome you to the Conscious Creators Academy and to talk about consciously creating. Because when it comes to creating the life that you desire, the one that you want, the one that, you're always trying to find, there's a big problem because in the personal development world, the thing that no one's talking about and the difference between being satisfied with what you have or being able to consciously manifest a life that's aligned with your true desires is still being kept a secret. Because traditional manifestation techniques approaches only half the equation. They focus on fixing or healing your existing problems or your past traumas. And the problem with these methods is the nature of problem solving. Because it means that you're always looking to fix things or improve things or treat things in order to be motivated, because that's just how our brain's wired. So if you consider this, that if no problem exists, your brain will automatically go looking for problems to fix in order for you to improve, because that's what it's been programmed to do. Why would you keep doing that? Because in the past, fixing problems has been your primary focus. And more often than not, you'll find more than enough to go around, right? And it becomes a lifelong journey of the problem solution orientation. And you see it in all the books, the seminars, and it's stark contrast to actually how you want to create. It's in stark contrast to what the super successful do. They don't try to solve problems. Instead, they create what they love. And we know that from the science, because the science is now telling us in order to create something, it has to be created in your mind first before it comes into fruition, before it manifests, if you like, before it becomes a third dimensional thing that you're creating. It doesn't matter whether it's a product, a business, a lifestyle. If you talk to the most successful people, they'll tell you, I mean, sports people particularly, they visualized it in their mind first. And a lot of the studies that have been done have shown, and they did a study with basketballers in the States. Now, these guys had already played basketball, so they had two groups, one who continued to train every day, and the other group who just did visualization exercises on winning, on playing the perfect shot. They had the muscle memory, they had experienced it, so they knew what it felt like. And so all they did was focus on having those perfect shots. And what they found after 30 days was the guys who did the visualization were the ones that were most successful. So that tells you how powerful our mind is when we focus on the right areas. Another amazing study that was done was they took all these, no, don't quote me on this, they took all these retired men, I think it was about 20 of them, who had all different conditions. Some had arthritis, some had old football injuries, different varying shades of health and vitality. So they took them away to this camp. They took away their mobile phones. They took away all, or shall I say, 21st century stuff. And what they did was they put them into an environment of 20 years ago, before all these things were available. So the newspapers that they had, the TV shows they listened to, the music they listened to were all 20 years ago. And what happened, they found over, I think it was this period of a month that they stayed there, or 2 weeks. Again, don't quote me because I'm not quoting it exact. They found that the health of these men improved. They became 20 years younger, all because they were immersed into an experience of life 20 years ago when they were 20 years younger. And so again, that tells you the magic of our brain. It tells you how visualization and how stepping into what it feels like, or what it felt like, and what it looked like can do when you're trying to create. Now, these men also walked better, their flexibility improved, a whole lot of parameters that they tested all started to shift and change while they were in that environment. So in this session today, I'm going to start off going through how being a conscious creator works and the change patterns that we use to support that shifts and changes and help us unplug from our current identity and current reality into a new one. Because we have to learn to develop the right structures when we start to do and become a conscious creator. Now, I'm going to share my screen. Just give me a minute while I get organized, because there's 5 steps in becoming this amazing creator. These 5 steps are in your orientation book as well. So, let me find the right part of my screen. Share screen. So when we're starting to do this work and start to be that conscious creator, there's a 5-step matrix that we want to follow. And we're going to go through the different modules over the next few weeks. So the first thing is we need to be able to choose a true goal. What's our true intention? What's really in our heart that we truly want? And we have to learn how to align our target with our end result and move forward with complete clarity. So how do you do that? So we're going to go deeper into all this, but this is just the overview. We have to create the correct structural tension. We have to learn how to pull ourselves towards what we want without that internal struggle and with minimal effort. You know what it's like. Over this side, you've decided this is my desired reality. This is the end result. This is what I want to create. And our current reality is over here. And like a rubber band, the tension keeps pulling us back and back and back. And we go feels like we go 1 step forward and 10 steps back. So we need to learn how to do that. We're going to go more into that. We're going to go more into the emotion of the end result. We need to learn how to create new emotional set points based on the person that we want to be, this new identity, rather than the person you need to be. We need to be who we're meant to be. And that, who do we want to be? It's not, I need to be this person who does this, this, and this because that'll make people love me, or, I've got all these responsibilities and I've got all these things to do. But it's who you want to be. Who do you want to be, actually? what is it that you want out of life? Who do you want? You want to be living your true nature and purpose. That's why we're here. The next step is number 4 in this matrix, is to unplug and recode. We need to replace those old habits, beliefs, feelings with new ones. And we need to step into our new reality with a deep understanding of who we truly are. What's our limits? Who are we? When we start to learn who we are, what our belief system is, then we can know how to navigate with it and work with it. Because once we start to do that, that really shifts and changes our world, because we recognize where the power is. We recognize who we've given the power to, or what we've given our power to. And the last step in this matrix is to take aligned action. We really need to be aligned and align our actions with what our end result is, what's our desired reality. And that creates unparalleled momentum towards achieving it. And it removes the fear of getting it wrong, because we're in total emotional alignment with where we want to be. And when you start to do that, it's really exciting, because life's amazing when we do it. So the problem that we have generally is we've been trying to create an outcome for so long, but we still don't have it. We still don't have it because we see the next shiny object. We have the fear of missing out. We keep trying and doing all these things, and we just keep oscillating and returning back to, like being on a hamster wheel, going round and round and round and never getting anywhere, always ending up in the same spot. It's like our unconscious self, or some other part of us, we think, maybe externally, we're a victim to, that stops it. So when we learn this, the alchemy of creation, and we shift our identity, when we go through the 5-step matrix, our whole world changes. Because at the moment, when you think about it, we've been working from the wrong structure. We've given our power away. We've tried to heal our current identity and our current reality instead of letting it go. And even if we think we've let it go, we realize we haven't, because it's come back. And thinking that we'll change when we achieve a result. Like when I lose weight, I'll be happy. Or when I have money, I'll be able to find love. Someone will love me. And in reality, we know that's not true, but that's how we've been programmed to think and understand that it is true. But in reality, once you start to learn this, you must be it before you see it. And again, this comes back to that unconscious knowing, that unconscious accepting, that visualization, that creation in our mind, and taking control of ourselves in order to be it. And the other thing is that we're out of emotional alignment with what we desire. And often things we say, this is what we want, but when it boils down to it, we're not in emotional alignment with it. We're only saying that we want it because we think it's the right thing to do. And then, of course, it doesn't work, because you can't grow an abundance tree planting seeds of scarcity. And we're going to go through a whole lot of things about why that's not going to work. And the next point I want to make is that we're not following natural laws. We're not going for what we love. We're not following through. And we're holding on to the past as if it's real. And why do we do that? Because it's a story that we've created. Because, everything's a story. Everything's fantasy, really. It's just that we've chosen to believe it. Because, you have 3 people in the same family. They all have a point of view of an incident differently. Some people think it's great, other people were damaged by it, and another person might be neutral about it. So we all have different perspectives of the same information. And that's a really challenging thought, because when you talk to siblings and we get into doing family stuff, you can see that our perception of the truth is based on what our understanding is. But we're not broken, and we are the powerful creator of our reality. And we can choose how we want to be with it, or we can choose to stay stuck in it. So the next thing that I want to talk about, if I can get the right screen up, is this journey that we take when we step into being a conscious creator. Just going to find just bear with me. Oh, look for we can use this information, of course, for anything that we're doing. And it's exciting when you're thinking about what we want to create. Why do we want it? What benefit is it going to give us? And how will that affect the people around us as well? Because we can only create things for ourselves, not for anybody else. I nearly got it. Just give me a minute or so. Let me share my screen again. So here's our journey. We're born pure creative spirit. We're born in innocence, in wonder. And during the first 4 to 7 years of our life, we learned how life was or is. And we got wounded. We realized in that 4 to 7 years that life's hard, life's tough. Maybe we feel like we don't belong. Maybe we feel like we're not good enough. Maybe we don't deserve love. All sorts of wounds can happen to us, even in the best of families, because it doesn't matter how bad your family is, if you like. Doesn't matter how good your family is, if you like. If something happens to us when we're vulnerable, we take that on as our truth. So that could mean that just somebody says something to you one day about, oh, she's really fat, or she doesn't even say it to you, but they say, oh, she's really fat. She must eat too much. You don't know the effect that that's going to have on that little 2-year-old or 3-year-old. It could be that they develop a eating disorder because they have a body image issue. We don't know that, but that's how we get wounded. And then we have a limited perspective on the world around us, and we orientate ourselves to that world through the limitation. So it means that, okay, I've always got a diet, or I can't be seen in public, or nobody loves me because I'm so fat, or I was fat. Who knows? Whatever. So you have that belief system developed around you. And that's how we view the world. And we might go, well, stuff them. I'm going to live my life how I want. And you might try that. So you get that call to adventure. But then we fall back down into nobody loves me, nobody wants me, I'm not good enough because of my weight. And so our weight goes up and down and oscillates between I can be my ideal weight, but I can't keep it because the world doesn't love me, and fall back and oscillate between the two. And, you know, I know for women, a lot of that we have. And so when we want to create this look, we want to be healthy and vital, and we want to play with our kids, we want grandkids, we want to be able to play with them and share with them and do lots of activities. But these underlying beliefs that we keep having to fix ourselves keep pulling us back into who we were before. And so over time, we try so many different tools, concepts, and things to shift. And for some people, it's really easy. It just happens for them because they just managed to get into that right mindset. For other people, it's a real challenge because they keep falling back because the trauma is so great and so stuck in their cellular memory, or it might be a family bloodline issue or something else, that they keep falling back into it. And then there's other people who just stay stuck in it, who pretend, if you like, to try and change, but they don't really want to. So they keep becoming the victim, and they just stay stuck because they just refuse to change. They pretend, oh, because the family wants me to. Oh, yes, I want to change. I don't like being like this. But in reality, they don't want to change because it's easier for them to stay where they are than to change and become who they should be. And we all know people like that. But you're here because you've chosen to change. You're here because you want to change and become who you're meant to be, to live your true nature and purpose. And when you decide to do that and to cross that threshold that we've got there, you get tested, if you like. And we have to face our egoic agenda. We have to face our inner child. We have to face all those wounded parts of ourselves, as well as the family programming. So we find out which parts of us are our allies and which parts of us are our enemies. And not only for ourselves in our own being, but also in the outside world, because the energy we put out is the energy we attract in. So people, relationships, business, work, all reflect who we are. And so when we start to face our shadow, and we go into that innermost cave and face the ordeal of the abyss, if you like, the dark night of the soul, where we actually start to work with our shadow self, where we work with all these part personalities and aspects that keep us in oscillation, then we start to develop and step into a new identity, because we own who we are, we have the power, and we have a new understanding of ourselves and of the world. And so we start to master our connection with our self-conscious, our unconscious, and our superconscious. And it's really exciting when we start to do that, because we have mastery. And then we make a decision, if we start to oscillate and start to feel ourselves going back into that old self, that we never want to go there, because life is so much better when I can create. Life is so much better with the understandings that I have in this new world that I'm living in. And so we then start the journey home, if you like. We're mastering two worlds. We master the inner world, the outer world. We live in two worlds. We live in the current third dimensional world, and we also live in the fifth dimensional world. And so it's really exciting when we start to do that, because we have that special knowledge and we've changed who we are as we move to a ascent to a higher plane, if you like, but we step more into the innocence and the wonder of who we are. We start to be and live our true nature and purpose. And so I've got it in a bit of a spiral, because that's how it is. We move to the next level. And sometimes we want to stay where we are for a while, but then we have a different layer of understanding of ourself come up, and we start to move into that. And I think that's so exciting as well, because we're really, once we shift our identity, it's affecting not only ourselves, but it shifts our DNA. And so it has that effect, morphogenic effect, because we're in the unified field and we're in the quantum field. It starts to shift and change the DNA of our family and those around us, our partners, whoever, if you have a partner that you sleep with, and it starts to affect them. It starts to affect our relationship with those around us. It affects how we work, it affects our business, it affects our friendships. And it does that in positive ways. And also we lose people, of course, because they're no longer at the same frequency, if you like, that we are. They might be still stuck down in being a victim. They might be still stuck where they are. And sometimes we shift and change. And so our friends shift and change. We become connected with other people who are in alignment with what we're thinking and doing. And you might be the first one in your family to be abundant. You might be the first one in your family to break the bonds of these old patterns. You might be the first one to break out of having a negative relationship, an abusive relationship. You might be the first one. And then as you shift that, it starts to shift it for everyone else. And we have that amazing ability to create and co-create and live the life that we've designed and co-create a life with others, sharing a creation. Because no man's an island, no person's an island. We have to live in this world. So why would you want to isolate yourself and not co-create with others to be in the same world? So the next thing that I wanted to talk about and give you a better understanding of before we finish today is having clarity around what you do want. And again, I'm just going to bring up my notes for you. Share my screen. Because what is this thing called the superconscious? So neuroscience, philosophy, metaphysics all seem to agree that we have many fields of information in and around us. And in the most basic way, when it comes to understanding who we are, it comes down to 3 classifications of energy that make the most sense. For those of you who are into metaphysics, you know that we have an aura, we have an energy field like an egg around our body, which has different layers. And they have proved this. There's been work by Dr. Valerie Hunt and many other people that have actually, using Kirlian photography and other methods, shown that we have different fields of energy around the body. So not only do we have different fields of energy around our body, we have different energy fields in our consciousness. So for the purpose of doing conscious creators, we'll call them our self-conscious, our unconscious or subconscious, and our superconscious fields. Our self-conscious is our mind, our conscious mind, and it's also known as our ego or the id. And our self-conscious, apart from thinking about being self-conscious about your own body, the self-conscious is about awareness of the body, of the environment, of our outside surroundings. So it's about the features, the colours, the sounds, the objects, the smells, the activities, as well as our personal existence, like our character traits, whether we're tall, short, fat, thin, slim, fit, unfit, feelings, thoughts, all those sort of things are part of our self-conscious. And we're conscious of ourselves as individuals, of our own thoughts, of our own feelings, of our own actions. And it's a very subjective field. And it's always about the present moment. It's about today. And the goal of our conscious self, our self-conscious, is to have fun and to live the best life possible. The conscious mind has the power to choose or to intend, which makes it extremely powerful, as the power of conscious choice stabilizes the power of creation. Now, science tells us that we as human beings are the only beings on this planet who can do this, who can make a conscious choice. Animals apparently can't do it, so they believe. So we have that power, but who do we give it to? What do we do with it? And so life is a continual happening. There's always new ideas, relationships, feelings, possibilities, and choice is a function of mindful will and focus. So we can choose something and focus on that, or we cannot. But when we make choices, and this is really important, when we isolate a single specific possibility out of all the infinite possibilities there is that we can do, it begins to stabilize that choice in our field. We're then empowered, and we empower that choice by isolating that frequency of potential. So if you think about herding cattle and you want to just take one steer out of the herd because it's the best steer, has the best prodigy, is the best looking, has all the best things that you're looking for in a steer that's going to bring you the most money, you want to remove that from the herd so that you can isolate it, so that you can then begin the process of using it either to create more prodigy, to create more steers in the same like, or to sell it, or to do whatever, because that's your choice. So when we start to do that with our choices, with our ideas, and oftentimes for some people, they've got so many ideas they can't isolate one. This week they want to do this, tomorrow they want to do that, next week they're going to do something else. But until we can isolate one thing and really focus on that one thing, everything, there's too many, we're unfocused because there's too many things and we keep chopping and changing our mind. So when we start to truly focus on what it is that we truly want, then we can start to bring that into manifestation and it can start to appear. We can always change our mind. We don't have to stay focused on that if it's not working for us. So it's really important that we understand that the conscious mind wants something concrete. It wants something it can see, that it can feel, that it can smell, that it's got the color of, the features of. And when we start to give it that gives the power and empowers that choice. Then there's the unconscious or the subconscious. And the unconscious or the subconscious defines itself through feelings. It creates programs, it runs the body through automation. After all, we don't have to think that we've got to breathe. We don't have to think we have to digest our food. It just happens automatically. So our unconscious defines itself through feelings, and it feels. It lives in the past. It's really subjective, and its goal is to keep the system going. So it loves automation, and it desires to continue what it thinks works to keep the person alive and safe, no matter how painful or unsafe it may be to the self-conscious, because it understands, because it was created in that first 4 to 7 years of life, that this is what's required to keep this person safe. And it's the unprocessed residue of thoughts, actions, and memories, and it's like a massive computer, a storage unit of information, and it represents 95% of our programming. And so when we live unconsciously, it's in charge of our attitudes, our actions, behaviors. It has memory, but it doesn't have the ability to consciously choose, but it can come up with unique and innovative ways to fashion and generate outcomes or realities based on the information gathered and stored over its lifetime. So when you're choosing something new, the unconscious, the subconscious goes through the data banks and looks for when you've done this before and what the outcome was and what it has to do to support you. Now, that's not always a positive thing, which is why we oscillate, because it's always going back through the time, back through its data banks, back through its memory banks, whatever you want to call it, to when you did that before. And if you haven't ever done the thing that you wanted, your choice that you've made, and it's something completely outside of the data bank, it doesn't know how to deal with it. So it's always going to look for something that was close or similar. And it will use that information for you in this new creation, which is why we keep going back again, oscillating back, because you're trying to create something entirely different, a new way of thinking and being. But your unconscious parts have never experienced that. For example, you might be the first person in your family not to be abused, but you don't know how to have fun because the data banks have never experienced what it's like to have fun without any repercussions. And so it's always going to go back to what it knows. And when you're trying to teach it something new that it's never experienced, it doesn't know what to do. And so we have to, when we're working with our choices, give our unconscious mind training on what it would expect to feel like. And this is where, when we're doing the work, we always ask, what would it feel like? How would it feel for you if you were that, if you had that? And it's really powerful when you start to do that. And it doesn't matter what your life was like, it's what you're creating. And we have to focus on that creation rather than the past, because we're training and retraining and relearning new feeling points, new set points of what it would feel like. because we're training both the conscious and unconscious mind into new concepts. And it will happen, of course it will, because we've been doing it all our lives. We were born in innocence and wonder, and we learned how to walk, how to talk, behave. We learned how to dress ourselves, clean our teeth, brush our hair, all sorts of things that we've learned. We've learned computers, otherwise you wouldn't be here. We've learned how to use a mobile phone. We've learned how to cook, maybe not. We've learned a whole lot of stuff that allows us to survive in this world. So the third aspect of this is the superconscious. And the superconscious defines itself as a higher level of awareness. It's really coded information that encompasses energy and consciousness. Now, science, in a lot of ways, doesn't acknowledge the superconscious. It acknowledges that there is some field of something, but it hasn't validated it, if you like. And the superconscious is objective. And it's the only part of our unconscious and subconscious that is objective. The other two are very subjective. And its objective for you is for you to reach your fullest potential. It has unlimited knowledge, and it is connected to the intelligence of the divine. And we talk about it as the quantum field, the mass consciousness of the planet, the unified field, but it is so much more than that. And when you're at the level of the superconscious, you are the observer. You become aware of the subjective nature of your thoughts, the ego and feelings, the subconscious, without being caught in the story, emotions, and behaviors of those parts. It speaks as intuition, via the direct voice of the higher mind, and it can access all the information in the unified field of all possibilities. And it can decide what instructions to give the unconscious field. And the unconscious then takes all the information that's given and reproduces it. And the superconscious insight is the ability to connect to an inner voice of the future, the past, or to understand the instructions given to another individual, gaining insight from the field and turning ideas into reality. Sounds very complex, doesn't it? But when you think about it, we'll draw it on here. Here's your self-conscious, your unconscious, and your superconscious. And they're all intertwined. Oh, it's not very good drawing. And they're all connected. Oh, sorry, my chair's in the way. And so that's who we are. And we can think about the superconscious as part of our higher self, our monetic self, connection to all that is. And we can be it before we see it. So when we're using our superconscious, we're connecting to our unconscious and our self-conscious in order to create that which we desire. So what about those things that we desire? What about creating our desired reality? What about, just give me a minute. How do we do it? How do we create what we want? How do we have that interplay to stop ourselves from oscillating? So if we want to talk about this, we're going to do this in the next session, but I just wanted to leave you with the thought that we have to be mindful of how we think. We have to choose what it is that we desire. Make sure that we're not trying to fix anything, that what we're creating is because we want to create it for creation's sake, because we just want it. It's not because we need money. It's not because I have to support my family. It's not because of I need the business. It's not because of any of that. It's because we've chosen to be or have something because it feels right for us. And it comes from our heart, it comes from our soul, it comes from the fact that we're here on this earthly plane for a reason. And that's to become and live our true nature and purpose. So it doesn't matter whether it's to be of service or just to have fun and be creative. We focus on that which we desire. We create and co-create so that we can be the best version of ourselves that there can possibly be. And so in our next session, I want to talk about creating. What is it? And having clarity around our choices. So thank you for today. I think we've done really well. And I hope you have an amazing day. And I'll be talking to you soon.